Welcome to the deep dive. It's fascinating how some of the biggest revolutions in art, they didn't start on huge, grand canvases.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they began on just, humble sheets of paper.
That's right.
And today, we're taking a deep dive into that world, the often hidden, really fascinating world of Netherlandish drawing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to track how landscape drawing evolved, specifically in the Netherlands, from around 15th century up to the late 16th.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
And see how this thing that started as just, a background element, how it turned into its own independent, really groundbreaking art form.
And our guide for this exploration is a fantastic exhibition at the Hermitage. It showcases some absolutely crucial works, old masters, new masters.
Right.
And what's really striking is how these drawings, they just reveal so much. Surprising technical leaps, deep philosophical ideas, even stories that have kind of been hidden away for centuries.
So that's our mission today then, to sort of uncover this journey of landscape art from its very quiet beginnings through some really dramatic shifts and breakthroughs. We want to give you a kind of shortcut to genuinely understanding a key moment in European art history.
All through these drawings.
Exactly, all through these drawings.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We need to establish something pretty significant right off the bat.
Okay.
The Netherlands. Well, it's really the birthplace of European landscape art as a distinct idea.
The birthplace.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, even going way back to the late Middle Ages, artists in Burgundy and Flanders, they were already standing out.
How so?
Well, in their manuscript illuminations, those beautiful hand-painted books, their landscape backgrounds were incredibly detailed, unusually realistic for the time, much more so than what you'd see elsewhere.
Right, that makes sense. I think of artists like Van Eyck or van der Weyden in the 15th century. And Hugo van der Goes, Hieronymus Bosch. The landscapes in their paintings, they weren't just filler, were they?
Not at all. They always played a really significant, well-developed role, almost like another character in the scene, as you said.
Yeah.
And here's something that really underlines their special skill, something quite surprising, actually.
Oh?
By the 16th century, Netherlandish artists were actually being invited to Italy to work in the studios of big Italian names like Titian.
No kidding. Why them specifically?
Precisely because they were specialists in painting landscape backgrounds. That was their thing. That unique expertise was in demand.
So the skill was there,
Yeah.
recognized even internationally. But who took that next step, making landscape the main subject?
That's the game changer. Joachim Patinier. He was active in Antwerp first quarter of the 16th century.
Jadinier, okay.
Now, look, we don't have any drawings we can say with absolute certainty are his. They just haven't survived or haven't been identified yet.
Right.
But based on his paintings, he's credited as the first artist to create pure landscapes. Standalone works where the landscape is the subject. That's a massive conceptual leap.
A huge leap. So what did these pure landscapes look like? What was his big idea?
His revolutionary concept was the Weltlandschaft.
Weltlandschaft. World landscape.
Exactly. Or sometimes it's translated as cosmic or universal landscape. Picture this. You're seeing this incredibly expansive, distant panorama viewed from way up high.
Okay, a bird's eye view almost.
Almost, yeah. And it's packed with an unbelievable amount of detail. All sorts of life, different kinds of terrain, mountains, rivers, forests, fields, different plants, water bodies.
Yeah.
All crammed into one composition.
Wow.
The feeling you get is that he's trying to contain, all the wonders of divine creation in one view.
So there's a religious feeling to it.
Absolutely. A powerful pantheistic religious feeling. Consistently looking at the one itself as this miraculous divine creation, seeing God in nature everywhere.
That's a profound idea, the Weltlandschaft. But taking that concept, that immense vision, and actually putting it down on paper, that must have presented some technical challenges.
Oh, definitely. And that's where Cornelis Massies comes in. He was a close follower of Patinier. Actually, his father was a major Netherlandish painter from the early 16th century, too.
Okay.
But Cornelis, he specialized in landscape. And significantly, he was also a prolific engraver. That connection to printmaking is important for understanding his drawing technique.
Interesting. So tell us about his work.
Well, there are 5 pen and ink landscapes by him from the early 1540s that are just incredibly important. They're seen as key monuments in the history of European landscape art.
Key monuments. Wow.
And the Hermitage is lucky enough to have 2 of them, including one called Landscape with River and Rocks.
Landscape with River and Rocks. You said it really embodies this period. Can you paint a picture for us? What makes it such a perfect example of the Weltlandschaft?
Okay, try to visualize this. Imagine looking down. You see fields, patches of woods, huge mountain ranges, really sheer cliffs. Then there's a village nestled by a river, cultivated gardens nearby, little figures working in them.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
An arched bridge leads your eye over the river to a castle, perched way up high on a steep bank. Horsemen are galloping across that bridge.
Dynamic.
Very. And then further off, in a bend of the river, there's a whole city. You can see fortifications, towers.
How much detail.
Oh, absolutely. And the river keeps going right out to the horizon, flowing into what looks like a sea bay bordered by more mountains. You can just barely make out tiny towns on the coast.
It's credible scale.
And the whole thing is lit by the sun, rising from behind the mountains on the left, casting light across this grand panorama. It really is an attempt to capture an entire world.
Wow. It really is hard to imagine how someone could depict such a vast, all-encompassing view without, actually flying over it.
Exactly.
So what was Massey's doing technically? How did he achieve that feeling of, airiness and expansiveness?
This is where it gets really groundbreaking, especially in that landscape with river and rocks, his graphical technique. He used a simple pen, sharpened very finely with brown ink.
Okay, pretty standard tools.
Yes, but here's the key. Instead of drawing strong outlines, defining all the contours, he used short strokes, sometimes even just dots, to suggest the forms.
Suggest them, not draw them definitively.
Precisely. And the effect is just astonishing. It creates this incredible sense of lightness, transparency, aerial perspective.
Like how things look hazy in the distance.
Exactly that. You get a real feeling of the air itself, its thickness, blurring things far away. The whole impression is that the drawing is just filled with light and air.
That's fascinating, using dots and dashes to create atmosphere. Was that completely new? Were others doing anything like that?
It was pretty radical for landscape drawing at that time, yeah. It's a very distinct approach. And the Hermitage has another Massey's drawing, mountain landscape. It's just a fragment, but maybe even better preserved.
Oh.
And there you can see this innovative technique even more clearly.
So this light, transparent style, did it catch on? Who picked it up?
Well, it seems to have made a huge impression on one artist in particular, Peter Bruegel the Elder.
Bruegel, of course.
Yeah. Now, Bruegel was from a later generation, but they were both in Antwerp. It's a near certainty he saw Massey's work.
Right, small artistic world back then.
Very. And Bruegel clearly adopted this light, transparent pen technique. He took it and brought it to, new heights of perfection, absolute divine harmony in his hands.
Wow.
So this Weltlandschaft idea, pioneered by Patinir and then technically developed by Massey's, it really echoed through Netherlandish art for a good century. Even as artists started focusing more on specific, observed bits of landscape.
Right, so that leads us into the next phase. As the 16th century wore on, these huge world landscapes started to, maybe not disappear, but evolve, mixed with a growing interest in the real world.
Exactly. Things started shifting. And that brings us to Jacob Grimmer, a really major figure in Netherlandish landscape around the middle of the 16th century.
Grimmer, okay. Wasn't he highly praised at the time?
He was. Carol van Mander, the famous artist biographer, said he hadn't seen a more skilled landscape painter in his life. High praise indeed.
So what's his work like? Does the Hermitage have examples?
Yes. Luckily, they have a group of 11 drawings by him, which is quite rare, especially these early ones. They definitely came from a sketchbook.
A sketchbook. Interesting.
Only 2 are exhibited right now, but they give us a great window into his approach. His landscapes, they still have those distant views, lots of details, kind of like Patinir.
Still echoes of the Weltlandschaft, then.
Definitely. But they're not meant to be exact pictures of specific places. They feel more like improvisations. Improvisations on the theme of southern Netherlandish landscape is a good way to put it, mixing real elements with idealized ones.
Okay, improvisations. But you mentioned a shift towards the observed world.
Right, and here's the crucial bit. In some of Grimmer's drawings, especially in the foreground, you see elements like specific groups of trees. They look like actual portraits from nature.
Ah, so not just generic trees, but these particular trees.
Exactly. That shift towards depicting concrete, observed motifs, that's the main current carrying landscape art forward through the century, moving from the purely universal towards the specific and tangible.
So Grimmer points the way. Who takes the next big leap towards this observed reality?
That would be a really pivotal but still anonymous artist. We know him only as the master of the small landscapes.
Anonymous, but pivotal.
Yes. His work marks a genuine breakthrough. He's a very, very important figure, even though we don't know his name. kind of a mystery man of landscape art.
Intriguing. What did he do that was so groundbreaking?
Well, he's the artist behind a revolutionary series of engraved landscapes. They were published by Hieronymus Bosch in Antwerp between 1559 and 1561.
Okay, engravings. And the title of this series, you said it was revolutionary.
It was. It's long, but listen to this. Many attractive places, various huts, farms, fields, roads, and similar things, adorned with animals of various kinds, drawn from nature, mostly in the surroundings of Antwerp.
Wow, that is specific. Drawn from nature, surroundings of Antwerp, huts, farms, fields.
Exactly. Think about how radical that was. Never before had an artwork or a series of artworks so explicitly stated that its subject was the, quote, unremarkable phenomena of daily life.
Unremarkable.
Yeah, and that it was drawn from nature and even pinpointed a location. This was a fundamental shift. For centuries, art had focused on gods, heroes, saints, grand historical events.
Right. The big stuff.
The big stuff. To deliberately say, no, we're depicting ordinary farms and roads near Antwerp, and that's worthy of art, that was huge. It's widely considered the birth certificate of realistic, naturalistic landscape in European art.
The birth certificate?
Yeah.
Wow. And the artist remained unknown?
Completely. We know the engraver Lucas van Dodecum, but the original draftsman, a mystery for centuries. People guessed, attributed it even to Bruegel at times, but that's been disproven. So the conventional name stuck. Master of the small landscapes.
So what about his drawings? Do any survive?
Yes, a collection of them exists, and interestingly, they're all the same size, which strongly suggests they came from a single sketchbook.
Oh, like Grimmers.
Right, and the Hermitage has a really unique example. It's actually a single composition that spans 2 separate pages of full notebook spread.
2 pages. How was that discovered?
Pure serendipity. Someone happened to place 2 separate leaves from an album side by side, probably just by chance, and realized they formed one continuous picture. A fantastic discovery in the archive.
That's amazing, like finding 2 halves of a map. What does it look like when they're reunited?
It's a truly wondrous transfiguration, as the curator put it. Suddenly, you see this wide river flowing across both pages, a village on the far bank, birds wheeling in the sky. It creates this incredible epic scope. So much space, so much depth.
Just from 2 small pages joined together.
Yes, and there's this rhythm to the composition, completely unforced, no artifice. It gives the whole view a genuine grandeur. This anonymous master, he could take these specific, ordinary, natural motifs and just imbue them with this unique poetry, the poetry of northern nature.
Poetry of northern nature, I like that.
Yeah, it's maybe a little melancholic sometimes, but always grand, epic in its own quiet way.
So what was his impact? Did people recognize this genius right away?
We don't really know how his work was received initially, but about 50 years later in Holland, his engravings became hugely popular, copied over and over again.
So a delayed reaction, but a strong one.
Very strong. He's often called the originator of Dutch Golden Age landscape. He truly transformed how artists approached landscape, not just in the Netherlands, but across Europe.
It's incredible how these shifts happen. And as you said, this interest in landscape wasn't just confined to artists making pure landscapes. It was seeping into everything, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It permeated all kinds of art. For example, there's an anonymous landscape drawing in the show, one that was once attributed to Bruegel.
Okay.
It really captures the spirit of Bruegel's time, this whole emancipation of realistic landscape. It's small, done on toned paper, uses a fine brush with dark bistre that's a brownish ink and then highlighted with white paint.
So different technique again, using brush and white highlights.
Right, creating a really lovely sense of light and shadow, real atmosphere.
And then there's Gilles Mostart. You mentioned his drawing is being shown for the first time.
Yes, he's a rare and important landscape master. And this drawing is making its public debut, which is exciting. It shows a street scene, probably a suburb, with a tall church way off in the distance.
What's special about this one?
Well, first off, it's clearly drawn from life, direct observation. You feel like you're looking at a specific, real place. That continues the trend we've been discussing.
Right.
But the really pivotal thing about this Mostart drawing, which dates from the late 1560s,
Yes.
is that it's one of the very earliest examples of watercolor being used in Netherlandish art.
Watercolor.
Really?
That early.
It's surprising, isn't it? Because watercolor was already flourishing in Germany. Think of Dürer. But in the Netherlands, it didn't really catch on widely until the late 16th century.
Huh. Why the delay, I wonder?
It's a good question. Artistic traditions develop differently, but Mostart's work here marks a crucial starting point for that Netherlandish watercolor tradition, which would later include big names like Jan Breuly the Elder.
Okay, so landscape finding its way into different techniques too. Now, what about religious art? Did landscape play a big role there too? You mentioned an anonymous St. Jerome drawing.
Yes, St. Jerome in the desert. And even though it's a religious subject, the landscape is incredibly prominent. It almost overwhelms the figure.
Interesting.
It's another significant piece also being exhibited for the first time and still, well, not fully understood or researched. There's still mysteries around it.
So St. Jerome in the desert, that's a common theme, right? The hermit scholar.
Very common. He was a church father, sought solitude in the wilderness to translate the Bible. But this particular drawing is, frankly, iconographically unique. Absolutely unique.
How so? What makes it stand out?
Well, first, the sheer scale of the landscape. It dominates everything. You've got this vast marine bay, huge cliffs, and then these incredibly detailed ruins of an ancient city.
Ruins. Why ruins?
They often symbolize the old pagan world being transformed or superseded by Christianity. But here, they're rendered with such detail, it strongly suggests the artist actually visited Italy and sketched real ruins from life.
Again, that direct observation creeping in.
Exactly. But the most unusual thing, the really startling artistic choice,
Yes.
is how the crucifixion is depicted. It's not just nearby, it's attached to the very top of a tall, thin pole. So it seems to just hover above the entire world, like it's overshadowing all of creation.
Hovering above the world. That's a powerful image. And unexpected.
Very unexpected, philosophically sharp, really, for such a familiar religious scene. It's a concept you just don't see elsewhere.
Yeah, any idea who the artist might be?
That's part of the mystery. The style feels like it belongs to an earlier generation than Bruegel. One name suggested is Hermann Posthumous.
Okay.
But he's mainly known for a few paintings, not really for drawing, so it remains an open question. But despite some damage over the centuries, the technical skill is just astonishing.
Like what's...
Like the way the artist creates the illusion of that pole being perfectly round, just using incredibly fine, subtle touches of the pen. It's truly a first-class piece of draftsmanship.
Amazing. So landscape is infiltrating religious art in really inventive ways. What about other themes, like allegory?
Ah, yes. That brings us to Hans Boll and his series of the Four Seasons.
The Four Seasons, that's another classic theme.
Absolutely. Ancient, very significant, symbolizes the whole eternal, universal order of things, the cycle of birth, death, rebirth in nature. Bruegel, of course, did famous paintings on this theme.
Right.
And Hans Boll was actually a contemporary of Bruegel. He even finished some commissions that Bruegel left incomplete when he died.
Oh, interesting connection.
Yeah.
So how did Boll approach the Four Seasons?
His series uses allegorical figures drawn from classical mythology to represent each season. You have Flora for spring, Ceres for summer, Bacchus for autumn.
Gods of flowers, grain, wine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then winter is represented more traditionally by an old man warming himself by a fire. But surrounding these central figures, it's just an incredible richness of detail. It's honestly one of the most detailed visual encyclopedias of the Four Seasons you could imagine.
An encyclopedia, what kind of details?
Oh, everything. Each panoramic composition is just filled with tiny figures doing things, everyday work, like preparing meat in winter, tending gardens in spring, but also festive life. People ice skating, wedding feasts, processions.
Oh, it sounds like you could spend hours looking at just one of them.
Infinitely interesting to examine, yes. Just overflowing with these eloquent, captivating little scenes and internal plots.
You mentioned earlier that some drawings were made specifically for engravings. Was that the case here?
Yes, these were definitely designs for engravings, and you can see Boll anticipating the printing process.
Ah.
Well, elements like the zodiac signs for each season are drawn in reverse, reading right to left, so they'd print correctly.
Ah, clever.
And even the narrative flow within a scene sometimes considers the reversal. For example, in spring, you might see bare trees on the right side of the drawing, but blossoming ones on the left, knowing they'll be flipped in the print.
That's fascinating foresight.
It is. And the Hermitage is incredibly fortunate to have the complete set of all four drawings. It's a real treasure, often requested for international exhibitions.
That connection between the drawing and the final print is so interesting. Let's dig into that relationship a bit more. How did that translation process actually work?
It's a fascinating aspect. We can see it clearly with Hendrik van Cleef. He was an Antwerp painter who spent quite a few years in Italy.
Like the St. Jerome artist might have done?
Exactly. And Van Cleef made lots of detailed studies of ancient ruins while he was there. The exhibition actually has one of these on-site sketches, an unidentified ruin, possibly Roman.
What does it show?
It shows the ruin, but also how contemporary life, little huts and people were kind of built right into these ancient structures. They were living in the ruins.
Wow, history layered on history.
Precisely. And later, Van Cleve used these sketches from Italy as the basis for more finished compositions that were intended to be engraved.
Okay.
And the Hermitage has a perfect example, a drawing by Van Cleve called Exterior Arcade of the Colosseum with a hunting party. And right next to it, the finished engraving made from it.
So you can compare them directly. What do you see?
You see this incredibly meticulous process. Van Cleve, the draftsman, is essentially telling the engraver, in this case, it was Lucas van Dodecum again.
Ah, the engraver of the small landscape series.
The very same. Van Cleve is suggesting every little artistic trick needed to translate his pen drawing into the language of the burin, the engraver's tool.
How?
If you compare them literally stroke by stroke, you can see how nearly every pen line in the drawing corresponds to a specific cut made by the burin in the engraving. It's a perfect mirror image, technically speaking. An amazing translation.
That's incredible precision. Is there another example that shows this process?
Yes, a really powerful one is Franz Pourbus the Elder's portrait of his teacher, Franz Florus.
Pourbus drawing Florus.
Okay. And this drawing is exceptionally rare. It's one of only 6 drawings known by Pourbus in the world, and it's his only surviving portrait drawing that's signed and definitely authentic, a major piece.
Wow. And Florus himself? Wasn't he quite a character?
Oh, absolutely. According to Karel van Mander's biography, Florus was the leading painter in Antwerp, hugely successful, but also a notorious party animal.
Uh-huh. Tell me more.
A carouser, drunkard, and spendthrift, Van Mander called him. Apparently, he felt he got special inspiration when he was drunk.
Sounds like a character.
Totally. Surrounded by students, hangers-on, made enormous amounts of money, but died completely broke. A real bohemian figure for his time.
So how does Pourbus capture this personality in the drawing?
Well, if you compare the drawing to the engraving that was made from it, of Johan Wierix this time, you can really feel the difference. The drawing feels so alive. It's based on Pourbus's personal knowledge of Florus. It captures his charisma, his vibrancy. It just feels more present.
The engraving.
The engraving is technically proficient, but it feels a bit more mechanical, maybe a little stiff in comparison. The drawing is truly a masterpiece of Netherlandish portrait drawing.
And does this drawing also show clues about how it was transferred for engraving?
Yes. This is really cool. If you look very, very closely at the drawing, you can actually see that the main lines drawn with the pen have been slightly indented, like someone traced over them with a sharp point, a needle perhaps.
Indented? Why?
And then if you were to look at the back of the drawing, the reverse side, it's heavily rubbed with sanguine, that red chalk.
Red chalk on the back. Indented lines on the front.
Ah.
I think I see where this is going.
Exactly. That was the transfer method. You'd lay the drawing face up on the prepared copper plate, which had a thin ground layer on it. Then you'd press down hard along those indented lines. The pressure would transfer the red chalk from the back of the paper onto the copper plate, leaving a faint red outline.
Like using carbon paper.
Precisely. An early form of carbon paper. And that red outline on the plate served as the guide for the engraver's burin. You can literally see the ghost of the process on the drawing itself.
That's incredible. A direct window into their workshop practice.
Wow.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. What about Bruegel himself, or artists very close to him? There's a drawing attributed to his circle, right? 2 walking peasants.
Yes, the 2 walking peasants. It's a bit controversial in terms of attribution. It's labeled Circle of Peter Bruegel the Elder.
Meaty.
Meaning it absolutely breathes the spirit of Bruegel, the character of his art is there, but without more scientific analysis, experts aren't ready to say definitively, yes, this is by the master's own hand.
Got it. So what does it show?
It shows 2 peasant men walking. One is younger, and he looks kind of listless, maybe resigned, just plodding along.
Okay.
The other man is older, and he's got this real energy, striding confidently, hands behind his back, looking quite proud, maybe even a bit pompous.
Interesting contrast. Listless youth, proud older man.
Very expressive contrast, and it definitely hints there's more to the story here.
And there is, isn't there? This drawing connects to one of Bruegel's famous paintings.
It does. It connects to Bruegel's painting, The Village Wedding. Now, the original painting is lost, sadly.
Oh, no.
But we know it through copies, quite a few actually, made by his sons and other followers. And those copies, they tend to look fairly straightforward, maybe a bit rustic and pastoral.
Okay.
But this drawing from the Hermitage, It has a sharpness to it, a satirical edge that's very typical of Bruegel's depictions of peasant life. It feels much closer to what Bruegel's original intention might have been.
More satirical than pastoral? How does the drawing reveal that?
Well, by studying this drawing, people realized that the whole village wedding scene wasn't just a charming country celebration. It was actually a kind of veiled comedy of manners.
A comedy? How so?
Look closely at the painting copies. The bride is very obviously pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And these two figures in the drawing, they are interpreted as the groom, the young guy, mechanically plodding along towards his fate.
And his future father-in-law, the older, pompous, self-assured guy, basically escorting him to the church.
Oh my goodness. That changes the whole feel of the wedding scene.
Completely. The drawing unlocks that hidden layer of social commentary and satire in the painting.
Yeah.
It makes you look at that famous composition in a whole new light.
That's fantastic. A small drawing holding the key to a major painting. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the 16th century in our journey. Where does the exhibition leave us?
It concludes, very appropriately, with a work that points towards the next dominant style, Anthony Blockland's Venus, Cupid, and a Dog. This piece really embodies the spirit of international mannerism that was about to sweep through Netherlandish art.
Blockland, tell us about him.
He had quite a dramatic life himself, born into an aristocratic family that had fallen on hard times. Much of his early work was destroyed during the iconoclastic fury in 1566, that wave of destroying religious art during the Dutch Revolution.
Wow, terrible loss. Huge loss. But he persevered. He traveled to Italy around 1570, and like many northern artists, seeing Italian Renaissance art and ancient sculptures just completely transformed his style.
So his later work is very different.
Very different. Much more sophisticated, refined, clearly drawing on those Italian models. The Hermitage drawing is rare, quite valuable, and interestingly, its condition, it looks fragile, a bit worn, actually helps confirm it's genuine.
How so?
Because Blockland often used this incredibly thin paper, almost like tissue paper. So the fact that it survived at all, even with wear, fits his known practice.
Okay. And the subject? Venus, Cupid, and a Dog. Is it telling a specific story?
It's a bit elusive, actually. It shows Venus waking up, Cupid is there, a little dog. It feels more like a poetic fantasy inspired by classical mythology rather than illustrating a specific myth, maybe symbolizing awakening sensuality, love.
More mood than narrative.
Exactly, a mood piece.
Yeah.
And the Italian influences are crystal clear. Well, stylistically, he was absolutely captivated by the graphic style of Parmigianino, that elegant, slightly nervous, elongated line.
The mannerist master.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But even more striking, Blockland's figure of Venus, it's a direct copy of what art historians call a calque of Michelangelo's famous sculpture of Night from the Medici Chapel in Florence.
No way. He copied Michelangelo's statue directly into his drawing.
Clearly sketched it during his trip to Italy and then incorporated it here. It's unmistakable.
That's amazing.
So this drawing, with its elegance, its sensuality, its direct borrowing from Italian masters like Michelangelo and Parmigianino, it really embodies this spirit of high poetry, as curators describe it. And this whole package, the style, the subject matter, the feeling, it signals the arrival of a completely new artistic language in the Netherlands.
A language that would be picked up by later artists?
Exactly. Fully by masters who come after the period covered in this exhibition, ushering in the Mannerist era in the north.
What an incredible journey we've taken from those earliest, almost hidden landscape backgrounds in manuscripts, all the way to these complex, philosophically rich world landscapes. Then the shift to observed nature, the technical innovations like Mass's dot technique or Mostard's early watercolor.
Right.
And seeing how landscape wasn't just its own thing, but wove itself into religious art, allegory, portraiture, right up to the brink of mannerism with Blockland.
It really drives home how these drawings, which we might sometimes overlook as just sketches or preparatory work,
Yeah.
easily done, are actually crucial windows. They let us see radical shifts in how artists thought, how they worked. They reveal hidden narratives, ingenious techniques. They truly shaped art history in profound ways.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. Think about other art forms or even other fields. What seemingly minor things, what preparatory steps, what humble beginnings might actually hold the keys to understanding the bigger picture?
That's a great point.
How does knowing about that initial spark, that first hesitant line on a piece of paper like Massey's or The Master of the Small Landscapes, change how we appreciate the final polished masterpiece hanging on a museum wall?
It adds so much depth.
It really does. There's always more to discover, isn't there, if you just take the time to look a little closer.